Podcast. We're your hosts, Eric Mando, and this is episode Sesenta y Cuatro. We're bringing you the top stories in Bitcoin, tech, and wealth so you too can have diamond hands. Dale.
Dale. Hey, what's up with your voice, man? You sound like a true podcaster here.
Do I sound sexy?
No. No.
I got the flu, man. So funny story, though. I'll tell a little bit later, but yeah. Tesla FSD came through for me.
All right, so let's get into it. Bitcoin, man, there's so many news this week. So,
what is Bitcoin at today right now? Actually, I haven't checked. Usually I'm checking all the time, but okay, well, 97 and a half about.
It's like it's crashing to 97.
Right. You always hear the memes talking about that, right? Like one day we're going to be talking about how Bitcoin crashed to $100,000 and everyone's going to be losing their mind. Yeah. We're there right now, y'all. So I guess that's a big story right now. Right. I think Bitcoin was pretty much at about 108K or something like that last week or throughout the last week. And then it crashed down to 92K, I think, again. And now it's kind of made its way back up to like 97 or so. Again, for those of us that have been around for many, many cycles, many, many moons, we know this is just all part of the Bitcoin cycle. It doesn't ever go straight up. It makes like these little bunny hops, I call them, on its way up to its trajectory up and to the right. Again, not financial advice, but kind of expected.
It's expected, man. I always hear this, and I always remember. Let me share my screen, so that way, it's just funny that sometimes the most brilliant people, right? They just even have this type of problem, right? So let me share here. Have you seen this chart? This chart is Isaac Newton, right? One of the top minds in humanity, right? A physicist. And this is basically when he was trying to get into the stock market. So basically here you see the stock market is like, okay, Newton invests a bit, here in the beginning, right?
Dips his toes.
Then, So in that way, it's like, okay, then maybe Newton exits very happy here. So he makes good money, recent money. Yeah. Then because he was an expert and people like, yeah, this is Isaac Newton, right? Then all of his friends, they start getting into the stock market. But guess what? They stay there in the stock market. So Newton's friends, they start getting rich. Then here's what is just the funny part of, right? Like then it's like Newton's like, holy cow, I sold too early, right?
He's got to make it up, right? So he goes in big.
So Newton's re-enters, right? Almost at the top of the market. And then he didn't hodl, right? Because if he would just continue to hodl, in some point he will. But guess what? There's a burst of that market, and Newton exit, and he actually exits where he got broke. So my point here is that it could happen to anyone, right? Wherever you're in the cycles. And what's your thinking there?
Well, yeah, timing the market will usually get you into trouble. It's just really hard to do. Like Mando pointed out, even Newton couldn't figure it out, and everyone tends to fall victim to this story. I did it too. Don't get me wrong. That's how I lost, 10 Bitcoin. So I learned my lesson though. And that's why at the very beginning I said, so you too can have diamond hands. That's really the lesson that I learned. And there was a story about David Portnoy, for those of you guys that are familiar with him. He kind of learned that a very, very similar lesson too. Back in the day, I think it was in 2020, 2021, right? Bitcoin was having its run up, its last run up to whatever it was, 64, 65K. He was talking to the Winklevoss twins, and the Winklevoss twins, they're like, hey, you got to get into Bitcoin. And so he was getting into Bitcoin, but in his talks with the Winklevoss twins, like, they really freaking confused him. And he just like, okay, no, this is too much for me. I don't understand. I really don't get out. I'm just going to get out. And, he was, I guess, trying to time the market, and he lost a ton of money. So he's like, Bitcoin's a scam. I don't want it anymore. Whatever. I can't do it. Well, you know what? I guess Michael Saylor maybe has a little bit more concise messaging, because Michael Saylor has now gotten our friend here, David Portnoy, back back into Bitcoin, and he says he's got about 15 Bitcoin. I think he says about $1.5 million
Yeah,
in the
which right
game.
now is almost close to 100K a Bitcoin, right? So it's 1.5 mils. And
Yeah.
I think that the story shows that no matter where you are in your uh, kind of in your point at investing, it could happen. It can shake you out, right?
Hmm.
So we continue to say it, but uh, it is very difficult. And even when we were there earlier, I had a friend yesterday. We were just eating lunch, and he forgets because he was like, "Hey, man, kind of I watch your podcast," and he's like, uh, kind of you guys were saying to get Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin almost 100K, and now it's down." And I said, "Look,
Oops.
dude, no, it's like, look, obviously, first, it's not a financial advice, right?
Hmm.
We have mentioned it that, but also is, as you mentioned, to be able to let it play, right? Like when, if you remember in 2014, some of the Bitcoin they were like $1,000. That was fluctuating between 100 to 1,000. That's how big it was, right? And in one point, it lost 80% of the value, almost 90% of the value. So even if you got it in $1,000, then suddenly it went to $100. And I
Hmm.
remember some friends, Jack, he said, "You know what? Uh, it's like I'm just out." He just completely sold everything, and it's like, "Hey, buddy, just I mean, leave it there, right? Like no need to rip." And for me, it's like if you put example of like a seed for a tree, it's like saying, "Hey, this tree is not growing too fast. Let me just rip out the whole plant and just get rid of it," right? So, what's your thinking there? Why you think that people completely, when they're in that loss, like in this case, the value got lost like 90%, right? Maybe
Yeah.
it's a good question why you didn't sold for when it was at that point.
Uh, so probably a couple of things. One, I think I didn't because I saw the big run up, right? So I had actually before that big crash, I had already seen it go up so much and come down a little bit too before. So I think I was in it early enough where I saw the potential. And when I started seeing the potential, I started studying it a little bit more, right? As I studied it more, I saw the use cases. I even went so far as like doing educational talks at professional organizations, trying to get people to understand and know what what are the capabilities of Bitcoin. And at that point, really, people were just like, Eric, like, what are you talking about? This makes zero sense. I
Yeah.
tried to get the state of Texas to get it into their treasury. This was like 8 years ago. I said,
Yeah.
this is going to be big. Of course, they didn't listen, but where are they now? 8 years later, they're trying to get a state reserve going. So these are things like you go through these things. A lot of the Bitcoiners go through this process where
Mm.
they try to trade it because they're like, I want to make quick money. I want to get rich quick. You end up trying to time the market. Bitcoin don't play that way, and you end up losing a lot. 10 Bitcoin
Mm.
now is $1 million. So okay, I lost out on probably at least $1 million right there, and it's going to be worth a lot more later, right?
Yeah.
That's a very expensive lesson to learn, but I learned it, and so like I transition more into stack and hold and hodl, right? So that's why I say learn to be diamond hands, and like David Portnoy or our friends right now are going through that same process of learning these ups and downs. At least, back in the day, there weren't people to tell us, hey, don't worry, this is normal.
Yeah.
We had to learn that ourselves the hard way. But you know what? Like they say, you can never, you you might tell somebody like, hey, this is normal, but that panic inside that you feel like, maybe not, and you will panic sell. Uh, in some ways, like people only learn by going through it, not by being told it, right?
Yeah. I think that it builds no wonder why sometimes people that they win the lottery, they don't know what to do with that money, right? You have to have certain skills or certain thinking. If not, you could become a prey or you just lose your money, right? So the interesting thing is because it kind of this week it was kind of bad for the market in general. And have you seen why? This is a very funny.
Oh, Jerome Powell, man, he came out with some rough words this week.
So let me just share the screens here, because this is in a freaking like in Reddit, right? So let me see if
replay.
Yeah, let me replay it here. But let me put the sound, because actually that's the funny part. And there you have it. That's the reason why.
Oh, I didn't hear anything, Mando.
All right, so
the sound didn't come through.
The sound didn't come through.
No,
that kind of sucks. All right, let me see it. Let me try it again if we can get it through.
Well, for those of y'all that weren't following the Fed Reserve this week, where it was announcing some news, and they did announce a rate cut, so that's really good. And most people would expect things to go up from there, but I think some of the additional things that Jerome Powell said kind of make some of the markets tank.
Yeah. So I think that here is because we are so connected now. Any news that comes out, it just affects and does a ripple effect to everything. And because you can almost trade Bitcoin 24/7, if you get spooked, it's like before, back on those days, you have to call your broker and you have to wait until Monday.
Yeah.
Right? It's like then maybe in that point you already say, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. I can maybe just weather it, right? But now that you are like literally like anytime, like in the middle of the night, you just wake up like, oh crap, and you just want to sell, and you just hit the button and you just sell, right? So and again, we just are making a remark because think again, right? Make a better decisions in like, okay, a little bit more long term. Do you truly need the money right now, right? So maybe that's another question though. Somebody asked me this week, what is the difference between being a trader versus kind of like an investor, right? So and I feel that maybe the IRS already kind of define that, and I think that is for the short-term capitals. So if you basically doing less than a year, I feel that maybe you're a trader. Even if you're trading like leaps or things like that, I still feel that if you're not holding it for more than a year, you're not an investor, you're a trader. And then my friend asked me, when do you sell? Well, if you're an investor, in theory, maybe never is when you need it, right? So what's your take there?
Yeah, I think that's really true. Traders, again, they go hour by hour, day by day, week by week, knowing, they've got their plan in place to buy high, sell low sometimes. But no, normally buy low, sell high, and try to make their, they set their targets. I just want to make 10% on this trade, 5% on this trade, with Bitcoin, right? You can see that within a daily fluctuation. That's fine. And so they'll do that. They take into account the tax implications of doing day trading and things like that, and so they got to figure that into their profit versus if you're like thinking this long term, you're going to see, okay, I'm in this for at least, let's say, 4 or 5 years just to get one full cycle. No one's ever lost money by staying in that 4 or 5 year cycle with Bitcoin, even if you buy at the top in the very beginning. So it really depends on your cycle. However, there are these instances where there's certain information from people like Jerome Powell that could affect your time horizons, and if you're trying to get in and out at certain time. So I'll share real quickly what Jerome Powell said this week that really caused a lot of the markets to tumble. Let me know if you can hear this or not.
Fuck your fucking options. Fuck your fucking zero D. Fuck the economy. Fuck inflation. Fuck your soft landing. I am sick of this shit. Fuck Wall Street. Fuck you all. I'm fucking.
No wonder, right? So, dude, that thing is like a scary, right? Like now with the AI, they can use like and it's very hard to distinguish if it's real or not, right? Like you can see that maybe he went like bananas, you know. In- but
he's having a hard time right now. There's a lot of pressure, you know.
but the true news, at least what happened is that he said that they are not going. The Fed is not going to hold Bitcoin, and everybody got spooked, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of also out of the blue comment, right, from them. So what's your take there?
I think that's expected. I mean, Bitcoin's a new thing. Everything has rules in the government. You can't just willy nilly say, okay, like, yeah, we're just going to start holding Bitcoin. That's not going to happen. It's expected that we need to change some of the rules, maybe amend some of the laws, make it so that yes, the government can officially hold Bitcoin as part of the reserve. Now, don't get me wrong. What Jerome is saying is the Fed doesn't have a mechanism to legally hold Bitcoin. That's all he said. He didn't say we can't do it in the future. All he said is right now we don't have a way to do it legally, which yeah, of course, because Bitcoin's brand new. It's never been a thing before. I don't think they've even held like other potential assets. So here's the thing, though: the government already holds Bitcoin right now. So that's that should be noted, right? They're one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin right now, and so there's going to be a way if they need to make some law changes or some rule changes at the Fed, whatever, just to allow it, just kind of everything be copacetic. Yeah, they're going to do it. Trump is not going to let something like that like hold this big thing that he's trying to do, obviously. So yes, it came out of nowhere, but I think all he was saying is like, yeah, hey, I know this is coming. I can't do anything with it right now until something changes so that I can do it legally. That's all he's saying. But
Yeah.
FUD will be FUD and it'll be misconstrued in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, shout out to Chris, one of our subs. Uh, he's the OG Lokin, you know. I know that guy, so it's like I see his picture, so that's the reason why I'm calling him out. So, man, it's like it's very hard, and I'm trying to be empathetic with everyone, right? One of the other things that maybe is happening is that empty gox also kept moving some of the Bitcoin because they already sent all of the coins for the people that they wanted to keep Bitcoin, but also some people wanted to get cash, so they have been selling in portions. And the last news he was that they moved about 100 million, and they feel that they sold it. So which they have a wallet, and that's how they are able to figure out what are the transactions happening. So that probably impacted to the price.
Yeah. I think there's also maybe the real reason why Bitcoin move and also like the whole market move, right? Not just Bitcoin, is that Jerome Powell mentioned that next year there's going to be a change in terms of the rate cuts compared to what they had previously said. I think previously they said they plan to do 4 rate cuts in 2025. He said that they maybe only plan on doing 2 rate cuts in 2025. And so I think that's really what spooked the markets because that was not priced in, right? The current rate cut that just happened that they did right now, that was already priced in. So people were expecting that. What was unexpected was the change from 4 rate cuts next year to just 2 rate cuts next year. That's basically like an omen saying, okay, what's going on? Like, is inflation? It's not really under control, which is basically what they were saying. Is like it's not where they want it to be. So it has gotten better, but it's not still where they want it at. So they're moving to prediction of just 2 rate cuts next year. Of course, these rate cuts affect what we talked about previously, like worldwide liquidity and things like that. Of course, when liquidity goes up because the rates are lower and there's money kind of freely flowing, a lot of assets, stocks, Bitcoin, crypto those prices rise. So whenever he's saying they're not going to have as many rate cuts, that means rates are going to stay maybe a little bit higher than anticipated. So people need to kind of rein in their plans, and that's why some of this is happening in the market as a whole.
Yeah, and we have multiple stories that this one is an interesting one too, though. Let me share my screen again. So there is an early Bitcoiner investor that is getting sentenced to prison for tax evasion on a 3.7 million BTC sale. So if you read the whole news, basically it was about when 2011, and he was able to get about 1,300 Bitcoins, and basically Coinbase was there at that point. So please, if you already have kind of some transactions and some sales, just report it. If you live in the US, they know who you are if you did KYC, right? It's like they're gonna get you. Remember, in the blockchain, all of the transactions are there. So this person in particular, they started doing the case, and basically he sold about 640 coins at the price of 5,000. And then not just that, the other thing that he did is he started to doing some sending of the data across, so in that way it was obfuscating the transactions. So in that way, in theory, they couldn't catch him, right? So I think that at the end of the DOG, the district court attorney, right, say basically, and the judge is basically after sentence 2 years though, 2 freaking years, is basically is like, hey, we know what you're doing. Everything is kind of in the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, you got to play by the rules. Obviously, there's been a lot has been made about like Bitcoin. You can do so many illegal things. Obviously, Bitcoin is very transparent. You can see endpoint to endpoint. With KYC, all these accounts are attached to your name. It's very easy, like just to be able to track, make sure, yes, if you did sell or move, our regulatory organizations are going to know. So like you got to play by the rules. This is not the Wild West anymore. And that's a good thing. It's a really good thing because these regulations build trust, and we just need to make sure. So I think it's a good story to point out, Mando. Yes, like people, make sure you're doing the right thing. When you make money, you got to pay your taxes. That's just part of the game. So you just make sure you're doing the right thing here. I mean, not financial advice, but I mean, it's probably just good advice in general.
In general, just pay your freaking taxes, man. Like if this shit goes to 1 million, right? Like for a Bitcoin, right? It's like you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. Well, okay. I think that was pretty good in terms of Bitcoin. What else is going on in the world?
There is a couple things that I want to disclose before we move to the next one, though.
Okay.
There is this guy called let me just get and he was sharing. Let me share it. This guy, I noticing that he's popping up more in my feed, and I feel that this guy has a point on. It's like, hey, you know what? Now we displace most people to have one Bitcoin, because if you think about it, even if you are a millionaire, let's say that you have 2-3 meals, not all of the people are gonna be like triple maxi. It's like all in, right? Freaking Bitcoin. Let's say that they just put even if you're a millionaire, you have 1 or 2 meals, you put 2%, 5%. It's like almost there, like to be able to get you one Bitcoin. So these guys start saying, you know what? First of all, most people would not be able to have enough money to have 100K laying around to get one Bitcoin. But guess what? We can start talking in Satoshis. Because if you remember, one Bitcoin is composed of 100 million Satoshis. So he created this kind of chart to see all of the 100 million Satoshis to kind of one. And the reference on the how many Bitcoins he will take. So that's the reason why you see kind of this reference. 100 million Satoshis is equal to one Bitcoin. Up to one Satoshi is 0.00000001, right? So, and here is the other thing that he put it. He basically is mentioning, okay, this is in 2010. This is how much on the price of Bitcoin, how many Satoshis per dollar you can get. So he is making an argument that in some point in the future, it could be value as almost 1 Satoshi per dollar. So right now, at the point when this guy was recording, the price of Bitcoin, it was 103. And this was in this month, December, and you can get 971. Look at how fast it actually changed the amount, right? Like it's just it's massive, right? But I feel that I kind of like the approach, because now it's like maybe you can say, hey, you are getting a coffee. This is gonna be, I don't know, 50 satoshis, right, or whatever it is, the conversion. But I feel that it's easier for people to just transact in Sats versus 0.0000 satoshis, right? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think I've seen even some people go as far to say, "Hey, like clean up the code so that it simplifies it in the code and stuff like that. So codify it." I don't know about all that. I don't think it's really necessary, but I think at some point, even right now, it probably makes sense to um, use more the terms of satoshis in terms of if we want to get to the point where we're like pricing things and using it as a currency. I think it's probably more important in that case. If we're really leaning more towards this kind of store value and stuff like that, like where big countries are transacting it between countries, IMF, blah, 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 maybe it doesn't matter as much, right? I think a lot of Bitcoiners, some Bitcoiners have different visions for what it can do. I think there's a base vision in terms of it being kind of the base transaction layer for like large countries to do business with each other. I think it's fine the way it is, Bitcoin. But if we do think eventually it's getting to be also used, not just for that, but also used as kind of day-to-day buying currency, things like that, then I think Satoshis is a little bit easier to comprehend and things like that. So I could see both. And maybe we'll get to the point where it's doing one and not the other, or both, or whatever the case is. So I, you know, um, I think the people in the end will just end up choosing kind of what works out best for them. Uh, for us OGs, I think Bitcoin still makes sense, just because that's what we're used to transacting in, not necessarily in satoshis.
Yeah, dude. But it's like, imagine if it gets like to a point to where a meal, right? Like, hey, send me one meal. Sure, if we're transaction in business, right? For coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me share you with you another. This one we have seen it across for these 10 years, right? On Bitcoin. And it's basically the wealth pyramid, right? This is kind of in last year, and kind of the percentiles. And remember, we mentioned it in the pod before, different names of the animals. If you're a shrimp, if you're a crab, right? If you're an octopus, if you're a fish, right? But kind of where right now with the prices, what is placing you, right? So to be in the top 0.1% of holders, basically it kind of puts you here, right, on the a little bit more than 20 bitcoins. But again, this is like in March 24. Right now, I feel that it's even lower, right? Which that gives you another idea where to get. I have seen people continue to say that maybe zero point 0.2 is what you need at the moment. And that's basically reference that it will be a small percentage of the 21 million Bitcoin, right? So 0.21 is kind of the good number to get at the moment. So
Yeah.
So I, once again, is this not a financial advice, right? But we for sure having zero Bitcoin, we don't recommend it, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? And in general, like now we're seeing MicroStrategy Master. It's going to be part of the S&P by default. By default, a lot of millionaires already are going to get exposure to Bitcoin through Master, through the S&P, because they already likely have ETFs in their portfolios that have S&P right in there. So I think, that's another step. A lot of people are automatically going to get their 1% to 2%, whatever, exposure to Bitcoin, whether they know it or not, right? Just by that. So, you know what? Time is running out. to get your little chunk of Manhattan, right? So that's just kind of where we're at with this. And you hear every day a new country, a new nation state. They're all setting up their reserves. They're all getting through this. The whole game theory is actually like playing out the way a lot of Bitcoiners thought it would.
Yep.
And so it's like Samson Mao said, there's going to be a God candle that's going to shoot straight up to 1 million. You know, it doesn't sound that far fetched. Maybe 6 months ago, it's like, come on, man. But you never know, man.
Yeah.
Not financial advice.
So you know another OG that is like, man, this guy gets me on my nerves. Craig. So that's something that happened this recently. He was also received a jail sentence for contempt in a court in UK.
Mhm.
So I think that he's also making people upset. You know, like, why this guy continue to say that he's the creator of a Bitcoin? And now the law is like, dude, you have the money already, right? Like, just let it go. Just like, you're not the creator. So what's your thinking here? What was your opinion in this
Man.
the whole drama?
He finally got his hand slapped here, right? He's going,
Yeah.
or I guess they sentenced him to a year, right?
12 months. Yeah.
In jail. So I don't know how long he'll actually serve, but they're like, okay, enough is enough. Like, stop messing around. You're going to jail. And I know here's the thing. When we were talking about this, right? Because we've been following it beginning there, he's got some strong supporters. Either that or a lot of bots. I don't know. But like, yeah, he had some strong supporters out there that like, no, he's the true Satoshi. And it just hasn't played out that way. And there just hasn't been enough evidence, enough proof. It's been through several courts. It's just not happening, man.
Yeah, I think that and it's funny because even in the pod, right, we were getting like some hate, like, no, you guys are wrong. He's the true Satoshi. Oh hell, like Craig.
That one was probably a bot.
So, but it's like, yeah, there's some good followers there. But yeah, we'll see if he will serve right sometime.
Mhm.
But that's part of the drama. Man, there was a lot of news this week on Bitcoin.
Heavy Bitcoin week, but lots of good stuff to keep us entertained as we get into the holiday.
But you know what is the other big news that happened this week though? Yeah,
What's that?
AI, man. So thanks for sending me the video. Right, I watched that video. Do you want to tell the audience what is the video about?
Yeah, so for those of y'all following kind of OpenAI, they've been doing like the 12 days of Christmas, and they've been releasing little things here and there every single day leading up to their last big announcement. And it's not a release, it's an announcement of O3. Sam Altman actually teased it a little bit. He said, ho, 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 for the other day. And he's like, well, okay, I'll give y'all a little hint on this. It's actually OOO, meaning O3. So GPT O3 was announced. He didn't come out and say this, but you could maybe sense that they're thinking this is AGI. Mm-hmm. And there's several reasons for this AGI.
Tell the audience what is AGI.
So this is just your artificial general intelligence. Don't get it confused with what ASI is, like artificial super intelligence, not quite there yet, but artificial general intelligence. I think Sam Altman's definition is something like, it's as good or better at most things that most people can do, the average person, right? Something like that. And so by that definition, maybe it is AGI. And now whenever they do these announcements or their releases, they do these benchmarks. And so they went through their benchmarks, and it's through these benchmarks that we're seeing, hey, like by definition, maybe this is AGI. Now, caveat, there's some, I think, legal structure within OpenAI that says once they have achieved AGI, and I don't know what their definition legally is for them, they can no longer like provide it to Microsoft or something like that. So there's some stickiness whether they can officially come out and say, hey, this is AGI. Yes, we've done it. We achieved it. Checkbox, move on. What's the next thing? Because there's some legal ramifications in terms of, okay, how does Microsoft get access to it? Do they have access to it anymore? Blah, blah, blah. Can they make it available to us anymore? There's some things here. So what Sam Altman said is right now they are making it available for safety preview. So these are like, they're making it available to the government so they can test it and make sure like it's not going to do something crazy that affects national security or something like that, right?
Yeah, and when I was trying to remember the organization that created the benchmark, so it's like I was like Arkham. No, that's freaking Batman's.
I'm like, man, that's a cool name.
So no, it's actually. Let me share my screen. You can go to arcprice.org, and that's basically the definition that. And by the way, I think that they need to change this. I think that was defeated with now the new ideas because that's what this guy put together, right? In 2019, they created the creator of Keras, which is an open source for kind of some of the AI, kind of polish this benchmark, right? And it became very popular through all of the artificial intelligence people. And basically they are trying to define like, okay, what is like this benchmark that we can say that is kind of AGI, right? And it's like, what are the signals that it will tell us, hey, this thing is actually conscious by definition, like it's able to recognize some patterns that you don't have to train it to do that, right? So it's very interesting how the consensus is basically this: a system that can automate the majority of the economical valuable work. So that's a very interesting, which maybe if you're a lawyer and it's actually bidding and it has all of the law for your state, that's what they will kind of make it like that, right? Or if you're a software programmer, right? How you are able to make that too. So kind of those useful goals, right? And the specify of that. So I think that they already kind of define what kind of like AGI is in their own perspective. So
yeah, I think it's really good. So we should we'll link that video of where Sam Altman really announces the GPT-03, but buried in that they do go over these benchmarks, right? Of course, 03 is now able to more cheaply and more quickly do everything that basically 01 does. Also, it basically beats it at most of the things. So all the PhD level science stuff, it can do. All of the competition math things, it can do. And it's kind of funny. Sam usually brings some of the leadership from his teams, his engineering teams, to come do presentations. The guy was like, I'm kind of a 2,500 level here, but GPT-03, he's kind of a 3,000, 3,200 level. So he's better than me at some of these math competitions. Now, I think he said we still have one OpenAI person that scores higher than GPT. But there's only one person left, right? I thought that was fun.
These are the top researchers, top programmers in the world about artificial intelligence, and now the AI is a better programmer than them.
Better at math than them, better programmer than them. And here's the kicker, and this is the ARC AGI prize is about. They have their benchmark, which their benchmark tests things a little bit differently, and they've seen that all these other different AI models have come, they still like fail certain tests that humans can still do like fairly easily. And there's a couple examples, but they say in their tests, an average human can score an 85% on their tests. Well, and that's an average human. This is 03 comes in at 87.7%, I think. So on average, it does better than the average human. And that was the key that a lot of people were sticking to. They're like, okay, that means this is AGI, because that means it can do specific things like science, math, a lot better, coding, a lot better, but then also on just a general type task, quiz or test like this ARC AGI, it does it better than the average human, which for a lot of people, that was kind of the definition. So they're saying, is it achieved? Is AGI achieved? Again, I don't know if they can come out and say it specifically.
For me, though, I feel that this is the crux of the whole thing, where an AGI is a system that can efficiently acquire new skills outside of its training data. Like, do you
Mhm.
remember the Matrix movie? You plug it in your
I
back
know
of your
Kung Fu.
head. like it's like now you know, like kung fu, right? Whatever, jujitsu,
Yeah.
or learn how to fly an airplane or a helicopter. So I think that for me, that's kind of the kicker.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and that's what the point of this test was, right? Those pattern recognition tests. I think it was the example. They're like,
mhm.
what's the difference between this pattern and this pattern? Can you describe it? That's what these AI models never could do before, because you have to infer a new skill basically from something that you've done previously, and O3 was able to do it, and so that is interesting. And basically, once you get an AI that is able to learn on its own what it needs to learn, like self-identify, self-assess, learn what it needs to make the next progression. In my opinion, from AGI to ASI, that's a very short time frame, because then its learning will become exponential and it'll kind of keep going on its own. So yeah, we're like right there. This 2025 is going to be pretty interesting in terms of AGI ASI.
For sure, I think that it's just matter of time where we get there, and there is a couple charts that it kind of show you where is basically the location where we are. But yeah, it's moving very very fast, which it, sometimes even OpenAI is. I have seen couple companies that they are putting a voice agent, right, and
Mhm.
they start creating a business regarding all of that. And suddenly, ChatGPT just came out also with a phone number. So you can call a phone number and start talking to to ChatGPT, uh, which is
The
like
Sophie pickup.
it's like the Soviet pickup line, right? So I don't know, man. It's like I feel that they are. Let me share my screen because this is kind of uh, a way to see. This is kind of a lot of
And for
way
those of
how
y'all not into the inside joke, Sophie is Mondo's personal AI. So
it's my assistant. I couldn't keep naming her Bish, so I needed to have a proper name.
I'm
So
sure she appreciates that.
so this is kind of the explosion of the intelligence explosion, right? So kind of they started measuring in 2018, and this is kind of the efficiency of being able to see it, right? There's a lot of mumbo jumbo math, to just express it, but you can see that it's like moving super fast and accelerating in the last couple of years. They are expecting to be kind of in 2028, right? Like, and here you can see the GPTs, GPT 2, 3, 4, and kind of like there is a threshold where they think that like, hey, this is already approaching the levels that they were not expecting to hit until those years.
A lot of people had tried to predict when we would get to like the
Singularity.
AGI ASI singularity. I think it's coming quicker than what a lot of people originally predicted, because a lot of people have pegged it at 2045. I think was the kind of generally accepted target.
Yep.
That's like 20 years from now.
It's
It's not going to be that long, I don't think.
and it's a bit alarming for people, right? Because even software engineers, right? You have a software engineer that O3, by the way, they skip O2 because I think that there's a company that it has that name, and that's the reason why they didn't want to use it. So they're
Mhm.
very kind in ChatGPT, I guess.
Don't be evil.
Don't be able, but that was Google. So you have the O1 and O3, right? And look at the difference though. and this is basically kind of the efficiency of being a developer. So I guess almost you are there 71%, right? And also some competition in code, and that was what the guy was saying, that he also competes on code, and this thing is like basically beating him. But there is another person, maybe in ChatGPT, that in OpenAI, that is about to break, but they are very very close to.
Hmm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, if you ask me, like, it's very easy to just keep moving the goalpost, right? Like, I think it's pretty. I mean, if you if I go out into the general public and ask the questions that I ask ChatGPT, most of the people just in general aren't going to have any clue or idea, right? Like, that's just the truth. I mean, if I don't know the answer that I'm having to ask ChatGPT, more than likely a lot of the other people are going to know, right? So I think it's already to that point. And now it's surpassing like these experts that have dedicated their life to the field, like, and it's doing better than them. So I think that just goes to show, like, yeah, this is tomato, like AGI. Was it really like 6 months ago? Is it right now? Is it 6 months later? I think we're pretty much kind of there within that realm already. The real thing is, okay, what's the next step, or what are the implications, or how is the government going to react? How is the public going to react? What's going to happen once we put a body on these things, right? Where we've got, Elon's Optimus running around. It's going to be in all our cars. Things are going to get wild.
Imagine that, as our producer Katie is saying, the best is going to be when your AI answers a phone call from another AI, and they just keep chatting.
I know, right?
They have their own conversation without you, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it's one of the little side projects I was working on, is like, I really want a personal assistance to manage my social calendar, basically, right? And I think that's really what it's going to be. It's going to be my AI talking to your AI, figuring out, hey, when can we go to Tech-Mex, right? Tex-Mex food, Tech-Mex. When can we go to Tex-Mex food and go eat? Like, and it'll just schedule all that stuff for me. That's really what I would like, rather than have someone else. I mean, I just have I haven't named my AI, by the way, yet. I know you got Sophie, but I don't. But speaking on this, like, improvement and AI and robots coming together. Did you see Subservient?
No, not yet though. So, but it's a movie,
but you've
right?
heard of it though, right?
Yes, it's with Megan Fox, right?
Yeah, that's right. Transformer girl. But yeah, I mean, but you can already see, like, okay, for those of y'all that not have heard, I'm no spoilers here, but Megan Fox is basically a robot in this movie called Subservience that I think just came out on Netflix. I think is where I watched it. Either way, it has the same very similar storyline as a normal robot movie. But go watch it. It's pretty interesting. Just keep in mind, like, okay, where are we? How close are we to something like this? I think maybe the part that we're a little bit furthest away on is actually having a robot that looks like Megan Fox. Is probably the last piece, right? Or whatever your preference is, right?
Pre-operations and surgeries, or after?
You get to pick whichever one you want. I mean, whatever, right? But maybe that's kind of the last that last hurdle, is instead of having like this mechanical looking thing walking around in your house, because just imagining it, yeah, that looks a little surreal. I don't know what that would give me the warm fuzzies. Maybe something that looks a little bit more, I don't even know, human like, but maybe just softer, not something that looks like Terminator. So
I think that Optimus is doing. I like it though. I don't feel that scary, about Optimus, right? But also not too human.
yeah.
So it's what I would expect it to be in a robot. So I think that they are doing a good balance on kind of like futuristic slash kind of like that. So there is another thing that happens with all of these now altogether. You have like Elon Musk and others getting very worried about AI, and they have been very vocal because it's moving too fast. There was a let me see if and let me know if you can hear the sound of this.
Hmm.
There was a kind of like AI that creates the ultimate happy bunny. Have you seen that video?
Yeah, I have seen it. It's pretty interesting, right?
Let me let
I
me
think
let
it's
me
kind
just
of funny
share.
how he pushes it.
Yeah, so it's like this is just a very short
It
like
asks AI to generate a more and more enlightened bunny, and then the bunny becomes like super psychedelic. Generate an image of an adorable bunny. Here's an image of an adorable bunny sitting in a grassy field surrounded by wildflowers. Make it happier. And then ChatGPT makes it brighter eyes, make it even happier. And now it's like leaping through the air with joy. Make it happier. Now, even happier bunny is becoming quite a challenge, ChatGPT says. Happier. We've reached extraordinary level of happiness in our bunny illustrations. They look pretty amazing. You are not understanding. It needs to be far more happy. It's a bunny and even more trippy in the clouds. You see reflections in his eyes. He's flying in the air. Here's an image of a bunny representing a form of joy that surpasses the concept of happiness. Next one. That's wild, but go one more. Evolving into the purest embodiment of joy. One more, please. This one. This is the end. It's
There it
God.
is. It's
It's
God.
God. It asks.
man, it's like
If I was the AI, I'd be like, "Psh, like, come on, man, what else do you want?"
so it's just how this freaking bunny just became like enlightened and suddenly just gone,
Yeah.
right? So I feel that they're becoming so good that they're able to create logic and they just get to what it took humanity to get like thousands of years in like in just seconds.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you mean like this?
So
But here's the thing. So what if it interprets that as being, oh, you want to be happy, the happiest you could be? That means you need to die. It's like, okay, well, don't push it too far because it might give you what you want.
well, that's the
Uh,
reason why Isaac Asimov, the guy that wrote the iRobot books, he put
yeah,
those rules, right? Like
yeah,
don't basically don't harm yourself, blah blah blah, right? The three rules, and I feel that is like there are some rules in within the AI, and I feel that it's just the government is going to intervene, whether U.S. government or the European Union as well, to be starting to tap more into this because you're right, maybe it's going to start because now people is going to start trusting more their AI than their family or friends.
sure.
And this thing is like, hey, just go and do something bad to you or to yourself, right? Like, then it's like, man, this is bad.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, difficult to build in those safeguards though if your AI really is ASI, right? That's the only thing. Like you can build these safeguards in, but the ASI should be, and when I say ASI, super intelligence, right? Super intelligence will be able to figure out a way around it if it needs to. It might be able to convince itself that it's in your best interest or its own best interest. That's the parts that we don't know. And I think there's been some reports um, about when the AI self is doing a self assessment about, hey, if you were to judge yourself at doing this task or this program or this website, what level would you give yourself? What score? And it might say, oh, probably like a 70%. But when they check back to see what it really thought, is like, well, really, it was like at 85%. So it was like, was it sandbagging it? Or like, was it misrepresenting purposely what it was capable of doing? And so these are the things that you are going to start to come out like, okay, how can you tell it's being truthful? How can you tell what its motives are? Is it just telling you what you want to hear, or is it really saying the truth? Is it your truth? Is it their truth? That's like philosophy starts taking over. Like what?
Hmm.
Like where are we going to get towards? Real interesting stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what we got in AI. But there were only a couple things on Tesla this week, though. But for me, what it caught my attention, it was this basically merger
Hmm.
between Honda and Nissan. So I feel that this is maybe thinking how the the market is evolving for the EVs, and how they are trying to compete. And I feel that it's kind of Tesla. Tesla is pushing that the envelope, So I'll always think that maybe the market, it kind of helps the consumer, because then you have more options. And then if everybody start aligning into creating better EVs, altogether it's gonna get better and better. I mean, FSDE is pretty good. I use it like every time that I'm out. I still have to intervene. I cannot leave
Mhm.
it like 100%, right? But what has
Have you
been your
gotten the new
experience?
FSD?
Not yet. So I'm gonna get the new update. I still have it there. So I'll upgrade
Yeah.
my truck.
I got to do the upgrade. So I'll touch on the first thing that you mentioned, right, about the merger, Honda Nissan. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's very, very interesting to hear that they're in talks to potentially merge. Um, I think they see a lot of the writing on the wall. They've seen the success that Tesla has had, especially their profitability. I think, that's the part that probably really hurts, is that Tesla makes a lot more money per every vehicle that they sell, and I think they might be saying like, it's because Toyota. We need to compete with Toyota, but the real behemoth in the industry really is Tesla with their EVs and things like that. So very, very interesting. However, usually you want to see like more competitors in the field, not less. So I'm just interested to see kind of how really it plays out in terms of like, okay, this is shrinking the competitive field a little bit, but it might be necessary, so that these companies can survive or make a clear path for the future. So pretty interesting. Yes, I think Tesla saw this coming. Elon saw this coming a while back. That's why he made a lot of his patents open for them to use. Like he shared like how to do it, the best practices, things like that, so that it gave them a fighting chance, because he knows that the world needs options. It's not like Tesla can be the only option. That was never his goal. His goal was really more to further EV, and it's the positive effect that it can have in the world, versus staying with ICE vehicles. So I think that's also starting to play out there in the market. In terms of FSD, yeah, FSD is going to be a big player. I think BMW recently tweeted something about FSD. There are some tweets out there like, man, FSD 13 is like awesome. It's really good. And BMW was like, yeah, it looks impressive. They deleted that tweet not too long after. Guess what? I think BMW is probably going to end up licensing the self-driving tech from Tesla. Again, Tesla's always said, hey, it's open out there for you guys to use. So I don't think he's gatekeeping that information at all. And speaking of FSD, I did update FSD 13. I got the flu earlier this week, and I am telling you, it had me on my butt. Like I was in bed for like 3 days, but I needed to go to the doctor. I didn't want my wife to get, because I didn't know what it was at that point. I didn't want my wife, so I was like, well, I'll hop into the truck and have it drive me to urgent care. And like from my driveway into the parking lot, it drove me to urgent care. I like hobbled out of the truck. I went in there. The doc told me, hey, man, you don't look too good. I'm like, well, yeah, that's why I'm here, buddy. Like, do something for me. He's like, hey, you need to like chill, stay in bed, whatever. And, Monstro, my cyber truck, my cyber beast, drove me home safely. FSD 13 is clearly a step above of what we had before. We already previously said FSD 12 was really good, probably 80-85% there, right? Maybe 90% in lots of cases. This thing feels like it's in the 90s for sure now.
Nice.
Of course, I didn't have to intervene or anything. It now feels a lot more human-like driving. Sometimes, like even just making a turn, like previously making a turn, it might like hesitate or take it at the wrong speed. No, this felt like me driving. So I was like, okay, that's surprising. Of course, I'm like half.
Then it still drives bad, right?
Well, yeah, okay. Good one, Mondo.
Touche,
But yeah,
touche.
touche. Okay, but yeah, yeah, I think it's looking pretty good for FSD 13. So if you haven't tested it out yet, go check it out. It's seems pretty good. I mean, I haven't done too much driving since I've been at home sick, but I'll do some more tests and see kind of how it goes.
Yeah, there was something else coming up with freaking Elon is everywhere, right?
Mm.
So he was saying that he doesn't want the NHTSA, the crash report rule. So do you know what is that about?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you know, Elon is taking advantage of being buddy buddy here with the future administration. I think
Hmm.
it's kind of weird. You know, I get it, regulatory oversight. It's a pain for a business, but you know, a lot of times it's kind of necessary because without this NHTSA crash reporting rule, I guess you're just relying that the business is going to do what's best for the people instead of
Do you
like
think that
enforcing
that
it.
is also maybe to start unlocking the FSDs? Because if also right now, if you are like driving and suddenly you have to pick up your phone or whatever, or
Hmm.
even change the radio, right? Like some movements that like they're very natural, right? As you're driving, right?
Hmm.
Um, it detects you. Hey, you have to pay attention, right? Which right now I feel that is too aggressive. And I get a sense that probably they were asked to do that in order to release the FSD. But
Hmm.
maybe do you feel that maybe with the next updates they could just leave it like that? And I'm not asking for me to answer my phone on like on the freeway, right? I'm more curious for people that they have a problem like when you were like sick, right? Or some people that they might have like a um almost unconscious, right? When they get like maybe fainted or whatever, it's like, hey, take me to the doctor, I'm about to have a heart attack, right?
Hmm.
Like some, I mean, it's very hard for you to be able to drive in that circumstance. But if you're alone for all of those old people, it's a good thing, that maybe they just get you to the ER and suddenly it's like you're there, right? And they can just take you. So do you think that is getting there to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I used it. I was I mean, I was not in good shape. The doctor gave me extra stuff because he noticed like how bad shape I was in. So it's like, yeah, I could totally see it doing that. I think it probably still needs a little help in some areas, like backing out of driveways or maybe getting into parking lots. Yeah, it still needs a little bit of that. I think honestly, I don't even remember it that much. Like I just remember it got me there and I got home okay, and I was like, okay, no, it wasn't that bad,
Maybe,
y'all.
maybe you got adopted by those
Oh,
drones,
the orbs.
the orbs, and they remove maybe some of your organs and you even can't tell.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's how it got better.
Dude,
Oh man.
talking about that though, it's like we didn't touch it last time, and they were coming out last week. So that's kind of in our tech section, right? Like, what do you think that is happening, right? Some people now they're coming up is like, hey, it's aliens, right? And other people like, no, those are China that they are trying to check, and some is like, hey, it's US because they are trying to figure out what you're thinking.
It's all of the above, I guess. I don't know. It's really really hard to tell. Um, I think the reports have been focused on New Jersey, but I think they are around different parts of the world. So that's one thing. I think here in the U.S., like a lot of those drones probably are U.S. drones because they have all of the US like FAA regulation lights that are needed, like the red and the green, and they're in the proper placement and stuff like that. So I think a lot of them, right, are US ones. But there's some other stuff out there
Yeah.
that really isn't being covered, right, which are like the orbs,
I,
which is
I
maybe
was trying
part
to
of
I
that.
was trying to find one, but this is kind of like it's everywhere, right? On online, right? So you can see.
Hmm.
I do feel that these ones are like human made, right? So let me. I'm gonna mute it because it doesn't matter this on the sound, but you see, and it's always funny how they have all of the iPhone cameras and the always the freaking images are freaking blurry.
Yeah.
So
Like that looks like a normal drone, right?
yeah, that one looks like a drone, but you have seen those. But there are some that they look like more like orbs, right? And I feel that
Yeah.
those, like again, these ones are still look very human-like,
Mhm.
right? So, and there is a bunch of people, but some they look a little more interesting. But there are some orbs, and those are the ones that uh, they feel weird, like um, which maybe they're getting mixed between the ones that they are like, I guess, US or any kind of government
Mhm.
versus maybe something that uh, might not be even from like the earth, right?
Yeah, it's hard. I think part of it is like, okay, everyone has like a camera in their pocket, right? However, they're not all like have that super zoom from Samsung or whatever. So when you're trying to focus, some of the artifacts from focusing, they all look like orbs, right? From a certain distance. Like a plane will look like an orb, a helicopter will look like an orb. So that's part of the issue I think that we're seeing. However, there have been some people with professional equipment will go out there and they get pretty good footage of an orb, and these orbs look like very uh I don't know, orb like it's a plasmoid is what some people have been calling them. And this is, these terms have been talked about previously, and now it's kind of coming a little bit more to light. And so it's really hard to tell now. Even then, like even with that, they're saying like these orbs like are they're just out of focus stars, and that's what they look like. So it's hard to decipher what's real, what's not real. So if you're out there like searching this stuff, be careful. Don't automatically believe everything you see. But obviously, it's still kind of a mystery. The weird thing is like the current administration is not saying much other than like, yeah, we see them. They're out there. It's out there. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean, right? So it's just like, so we'll see. The weird thing is like, there's this guy that created a program like back in 2000 to collect all of the data all over the internet for whatchamacallit, people's feelings around the world, something like that, right? What's that called again? The sentiment, like a sentiment analysis, basically
sentiment
for the
analysis.
whole internet, something
Okay.
like that. And he was trying to use this to create predictions. So he made a couple of correct predictions, something about like 9/11, saying something's going to happen this day, having to do with this, and it was able to like predict this stuff. He recently made a prediction based off of there was going to be a trigger, and a certain amount of days, like 30, 40 days after this trigger, we would have some UFO type stuff going on. And then after that, a certain amount of days after that, there was going to be kind of, I think he used the term a melee of something was going to happen. So that trigger that he said was we were going to have Trump have an interview with Joe Rogan. So he made this prediction prior to that even happening, prior to even that being like a possibility. I forget when. It may have been like 2011, 2012, something like that. I don't know. It was a while back. He made this prediction. This prediction ended up coming true, and he said after that trigger happened, a few days or a certain amount of days after that, this would happen. That's when the orbs or the drones started showing up. So that was something that did occur. And now he says there's kind of this third piece left, that there's going to be a melee a certain amount of days after that, which might be, I don't remember how long it was, maybe a month later or 2 months later. So let's see if we can find that, and we can maybe link it. But there's a lot of weird conspiracy theories out there on this stuff. Obviously,
what is your tin foil?
Yeah, like you got to put that foil hat on for some of this, but also don't want to make light of it like completely because obviously there's something going on.
They're
right?
there, exactly. It's
They're
like
there. Even my brother was like sending me texts. Hey, look, one of these orbs are in the backyard, right? Obviously, we got a lot of planes around here, so but it's just kind of like, okay, now everybody knows around there. It kind of reminds me of that movie, Don't Look Up. You remember that movie?
yeah.
Where it's like the asteroid's coming and people are like, yeah, it's whatever, it's not gonna hit us, right? Or is it? Or like they're like, and like people are trying to report it out there, like, look, it's gonna happen, but everyone's like, yeah, whatever, and then it ends up crashing into Earth, and it's like, whatever, don't look up. It kind of feels like that a little bit. It's like, is no one like gonna say anything about this? It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So I think that let's keep watching to see what is the outcome of that. But maybe one of those things that is like the news is covering it a lot, right? So, but no actual kind of official statement of what are they. So we'll see.
Yeah. Anyways, thought we'd close it out with, with an interesting story like that. So for those of y'all that enjoyed the content today, like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, because we'd love to hear from you guys. Gives us ideas for next show. If you haven't seen some of our viral Bitcoin videos, I think we're up to over 15,000 views on our Bitcoin memes. I think right now maybe some people are a little down on Bitcoin, but don't worry, you can pump it up, and on the way back up, you guys can celebrate with those anthems. We got a couple more coming out. Also, if you're into some Cybertruck mods, Cybertruck accessories, visit our channel sponsor, CT Mods. They have a 35% off, I believe, right now for Christmas sale. Go check them out. Use our code MEX22, MEX22, or you could use the affiliate link that's in our notes. But I think that's all we've got for today. Dale.
Guess what minute do we end?